Okay, so you have been introduced to the basics of user-defined functions and also the structure of a function file. Now let's try creating the user-defined functions that have multiple inputs and outputs. Okay, let's try the first one. So create a new function. So in this example, the output has only one output argument. The function name is g, and then the input arguments is x and y. And then we write the description of the function. Okay, and then this is the function body. Okay, a equals to x multiply with y, semicolon, suppress output, then output is assigned to a here. Okay, save this function. Do not change the function name. Now let's assign the input variable to this function. So x 1 to 5, 1 is 5 to 9, and then this is how we call the function, or we use the function. So inside here we can use the variable name, okay, since we have stored the input inside this variable name. So we can hit enter, and then we will get the element by element operation of that function. Okay, the results is always displayed on command window. You may also notice that in this example, okay, we have this intermediate calculation, okay, a which is performed, but the only output that we get from this function is the variable that we have, that we name output. Let's try it again, but this time I want to remove the semicolon from this function, and then save it. We are going to define the x and y again. And then hit the function. Okay, so when you omitted the semicolon, okay, this a will be displayed on command window. This is actually repeat, okay, but our answer ans is stored inside this ans variable. Pay attention to the function body here, okay, because our output variable is stored inside this variable name of output, not a. So actually you can remove the intermediate variable a and just use the output here, and then remove this one. Okay, and then we'll check whether we can. Yes. Okay, but if you have a different output, okay, in the function you define output as your output arguments, but inside your function body the output is stored in variable name a. What happened is, okay, so we have defined our x and y. Now I want to execute this function, so the function won't work. Okay, nothing will return on command window. Okay, next let's look at the second example. In this example we are going to create a user-defined function with 2 inputs and 1 output. The question asks you to use the Pythagorean theorem to calculate the hypotenuse of a right triangle when the length of the other two sides are known. So this is the triangle. The side length of the triangles is given as in A to the value of 3 and B is the value of 4. Now let's head to the MATLAB and create the function. First of all, click this plus icon here and then click new function. Okay, so on this template we are going to edit. For the output argument that we are going to use is variable name C, and then the function name, let's use the name hypotenuse, and then enclosed inside this parenthesis here is the 2 input argument separated with a comma here. Next, we type the description of the function. And then next line is the description for the input arguments. On line 4 here is where we type our function body. So the function body should involve the calculation that we need to get the output. Okay, the calculation should have relations between the output and also the input. So in this case, the calculation would be C equal to square root of A square plus B square. And then you close the function with this AND keyword. Next, let's save this function. Use the generated file name hypotenuse. Do not change since the file name of the function should match the function name. So we just save it. Okay, now it has been saved to the current directory. You have to check that the function file is saved to your current directory. Only then you can use that function. We are going to try to use that function by typing the function name on command window and then followed by the input arguments value. So here the value of A is 3, comma, and then the value of B is 4. Hit enter and then you will get the answer 5. Here C is being repeated on command window, but you can suppress the output. Okay, next, let's try to define a function that have 1 input and 3 outputs. Okay, so now our function have 3 outputs. So we start the function definition line with the function word, and then you use the square bracket inside it. You list out the output arguments separated by comma. Since we have 3 output arguments here, and then the function name is motion, and then you open the parentheses, the input argument is t, and then we put comments about the function. This, make sure you comment deliberately. Okay, next, since we have 3 output arguments here, so the function body should also have 3 expressions or equations, okay, that we need to calculate each of these output. So for acceleration, okay, it doesn't matter about the orders, okay, although the first order here is distance, but here I just type accelerate the equation to calculate acceleration. For the function body, the order doesn't matter. Okay, end your function with this end word, and then save it. Use the generated file name, save, do not change the file name. And now for the 3 outputs, if you want to get the value or the results for those 3 output variables, you have to define the variable name for that output. So in command window, I can use distance, velocity, and acceleration as a variable name, which I will assign to the value of velocity, distance, and acceleration that I obtain from this function. Okay, and then the t is 10, and then you hit enter, so you will get all these 3 values for those 3 output variables. Remember that if you don't ask for all the 3 results, MATLAB will only return the first value. You can try it. So just call the function name with the input argument t equal to 10, and then it will display A and S as the results. Okay, the 83.33 is actually the results of this distance, which is the results of the first value only. So whenever you want to find out, or you want to obtain 3 outputs from a function, you have to define, or you have to assign a variable name for each of the 3 output variables. Okay, next let's look at example number 4. So in this example, you are going to calculate the area and volume of a cylinder with the radius and height are known. Okay, so this function involves 2 inputs and 2 output. So as usual, click the plus sign and then choose function. Here we are going to create a function that has two outputs. The outputs I already spell it out here. The output is A is for area. If the output is more than one, make sure you list all the outputs separated with a comma. The second output is V for volume. And then the function name, you can use the let's try cylinder. And then for the input arguments, we have two here, R, which stands for radius, and then H for height. Here we just comment that the function is used to calculate the area and a volume of a cylinder. Next, you are going to insert comments about the input arguments. Two inputs are required: the radius and height of a cylinder. Okay, after you have done typing the comments, next you are going to type the function body. So we have two output variables here, so you also have to insert these two equations, each for A and V. So A here is 2 multiplied with pi multiplied with R H plus 2 pi R square. And then V pi multiply with R square multiply with H. Suppress the outputs and then end. After that, save the function. Use the generated name cylinder. Okay, now let's try use that function. Okay, we're going to call that function. This time the radius and height are 2 and 5. Okay, so cylinder 2 and 2 for radius, 5 for the height. So yes, so you just get only 1 instead of 2 because you did not specify the two variable name for the two outputs. Okay, so to get the two outputs, you're going to use this name of area and a volume followed by the function name, and then the input is 2 for radius and then 5 for height. There you go, you get the results of area and volume. So if you notice, I use a different variable name for the output. Okay, my output variable name that I specify on command window is different than the output arguments that I list on the function. Okay, this is because you don't have to use the exact variable name whenever you are calling that function. Okay, I just showed you, but I mean you can use the same name, A and V. You can use the same name just like what I used inside the function here. But if you don't want to use the same name, you can use different name. Okay, area, volume, Alternatively, you can also assign a variable name to the input arguments, okay, which is r and h. Okay, for example, I assign my input radius and then height, and then I can call the function this time. Instead of 2 and 5, I'll type the variable name of radius and height. Right, I still get the two output that corresponding to the first output, which is area, and second output, which is volume. By default, if you did not specify these two outputs, MATLAB will only display the output for the first output that is inside this function definition line, so the area. So if you just type, or just call the function name with the input, the results that you get on the command window is only one, and this is actually the area of the cylinder. Okay, and then do not forget to insert your command liberally, just as you would with any computer code. This is because the command lines immediately after the first line are written when you query the help function. So sometimes if you have really too many functions inside your current folder, and you maybe forget what the function is all about, maybe oh, what is the cylinder function, a month later you forget what the cylinder function is all about. So you can type help followed by the function name on command window. So this command will tell you the description or the comments that you insert inside the function file. Let's continue to example number 5. Okay, so this is a function that have neither input nor an output. Although most functions need at least one input and will return at least one output value, there is some situation that no input or output is required. For example, in this function, okay, let's consider this function which draws a star in polar coordinates. So let's open a new or create a new function file. Okay, so delete, okay, leave blank inside this output argument. So here is star, the function name is star, the input argument also blank, and then this is the function body. So this function will draw star in polar coordinates. The square bracket, okay, on the first line indicate that the output of the function is an empty matrix, which means that no value is written. The empty parenthesis here also tell us that no input is expected. So if you save this function and then you call the function name from command window, you will get a figure window open here. Okay, this figure window shows a star that is drawn in polar coordinates. Right? Well, you might ask, if the star function is really an example of a function that doesn't return an output, because, well, after all, it does draw a star, right? But the output of a function is defined as a value that is written when you call the function. So if we ask MATLAB to perform the calculation, Like this, we assign a variable named a to star function. You will get this error statement. This is because the star function does not return anything, so there is nothing to set a equal to, right? Too many output arguments because a is doesn't define here as the output here. Okay, there is no output. Like that's why you will get this error statement.